Welcome to Retiring on Purpose, Leoni Fitzgerald. We're absolutely thrilled to have Leoni join us this October for the new rules of wealth. As the founder of Weathology Australia, Leoni brings over 30 years of experience helping Aussies unlock financial freedom through smart property strategies and powerful mindset shifts. She's a Women in Business Awards finalist, trained with Scott Harris, who was Tony Robbins' coach, one of Tony Robbins' top coach, and has delivered over 100 presentations across the country. Her story is one of grit and grace, from overcoming financial hardship to raising triplets during a pandemic. She knows what it takes to balance life's curveballs with big financial goals. Leoni will be sharing how to make property work harder for you, how to shift your mindset for lasting wealth, and how to reimagine retirement as a time of purpose, connection, and opportunity. Let's give a big Retiring on Purpose welcome to Leoni.
Welcome, Leoni.
Welcome,
Yay.
Leoni.
Yay! Thank you for the lovely introduction. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to meet you. And I'm really excited to share what I've learnt over the years in regards to creating wealth through property and working with our mind to get ourselves into a better situation. So I'm going to go through some slides. At any point, if you've got a question, feel free to ask it as we move through the presentation. You can either pop that into the chat, which I will keep an eye on, and I will also, if you just want to pop your hand up and ask a question, that's absolutely fine as well. So I can get a bit of an idea of who's on the call. Can I just understand, is anybody currently investing in property right now? No. No one's investing currently?
Just owning and about to rent out to become investments. So,
okay. So you've got a property now that you're about to rent out as an investment property?
correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then you're going to rent?
No, we're going location independent.
Oh, exciting. I like that. Alrighty. Now, can you see the screen or has it just disappeared?
I've got it. Is everyone good?
Okay.
Everyone's good, yeah?
Good. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Can you see that now? You can see that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, something strange just happened. Technology is not our friend tonight. Alrighty, so first slide. Just want to run you through this graph. This shows how Aussies are currently retiring. It's a bit of a scary graph, unfortunately, because nearly 84% of our population is currently retiring on less than $21,000 per year. Now that is survival. At the other end of the scale on the right-hand side, 1.3% of us are retiring on $52,000 or more. So what we do is we help clients get from the left-hand side of the slide to the right-hand side of the slide so they can enjoy a better retirement. A lot of people who are retiring at the moment have been brought up by parents who went through the Great Depression. So they were taught certain things like eat everything on your plate, don't leave the table until you finished your meal. They were taught to get a job in a good company and work their way up. Don't rock the boat with the boss. And they were also taught to buy a home and pay it off over 30 years. Now, that's criminal to pay off a home loan over 30 years. It's not necessary, but unfortunately many of us have been taught that. And so a lot of us have no real education, no understanding about what steps we need to take to get ourselves to a better financial position. And, you know, the majority of the population is unfortunately retiring on the pension. So if we have a look at this next slide, I'd like to have a chat about people who have mortgages and how they're paying them. Now this is a little tip that can help you pay your home loan off sooner and save yourself some interest. If you can get your repayments onto a weekly repayment rather than a monthly, which is standardly how a bank will set your repayments up, you can actually save interest because you get charged interest on a daily rate rather than... So if you pay weekly instead of monthly, you're saving yourself in some interest throughout that month, which means you can reduce your home loan and save yourself a whole bunch of interest. So a little tip there that most people don't know. The bank will probably have an argument with you. So if you can get it onto fortnightly rather than monthly, that is better. But I got mine onto weekly last week. I've just taken out a new home loan. I've just bought a new house. and the bank was quite happy to make my payments weekly. So there's a good little tip there. Whenever we're talking to clients, we always have a look at what their current situation is to see if we can improve it, get them into a better position right now, and then also have a look at what we need to do to actually get them to a better retirement situation. So if we have a look at financial security, out of the following, if you think about this for yourself, what's your current financial strategy? And do you actually have one? 95% of people I meet, I can say, don't actually have a strategy or a plan that they're following to achieve a better outcome in retirement. Most people I meet have never actually sat down with themselves or with their partner and thought about, well, what does retirement look like for us? What do we want retirement to look like? What are we going to be doing? Are we going to be traveling? Where will we be living? What will our lifestyle look like? And if we don't have a plan to create that, often we do end up on the pension, sadly. If we don't do something different than what most Aussies are currently doing, we'll end up the same way that most Aussies are ending up, unfortunately. So I started investing when I was 18, not long to turn 18, and I bought my first investment property. I'd had a car accident when I was 11, so I got some money, went into a third-party insurance type situation, so into a trust fund. And so when I turned 18, I had about $50,000 in that. And so I actually invested into a house with a friend of my dad's, somebody I only met a couple of times, and one of his friends. So I ended up with a 40% ownership in that property. It was about an hour west of Gatton, in a little place called Forest Hill, if anybody knows of that. Population of, 300 or 400 people, but it's about 5 kilometres from the Gatton University. So our goal was to rent it out to uni students. And I had that property for 12 years, doubled in value. And then I went over to London and worked in financial services for 10 years, bought a little flat, made some money on that, not a whole heap. And then I bought an old house and did a complete renovation. And then pretty much the weekend I finished renovating, the GFC hit. So I lost all of my profit in a very short space of time, which was quite disappointing. But I was only doing what I knew. I was giving it a bash with the very limited information I had. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. My dad's a tradie, my mum's a nurse. So I didn't really know what to do. I was just hoping for the best. When I came home from London, I actually got a job in a property investing company where we would talk to people about their goals, what was important to them, what they wanted to achieve for their families. And the vehicle that we used was property to help them grow their wealth. And that's why I really learnt what I needed to do to create the portfolio I have now that actually works. And so I've been teaching clients for about 15 years what they could also do for themselves in regards to property investing. So the next question here on this slide is, do you feel like there'll be enough superannuation for you in retirement? If you think about that for yourself, you might feel like the answer is no. It's very rare that I meet people who are quite happy with what they're going to end up in super, unfortunately. Next question, have you considered utilising the tax that you pay to create financial security? A lot of people don't actually even know what that question means, but in Australia we're quite lucky because the government gives us incentives. If we invest in property, we're actually incentivised to do that. And one of the best ways to do that is buy land and build brand new houses. The government will incentivise us to do that with some tax savings. So we can actually claw back some of our tax that we pay to the ATO by building houses. They encourage us to do that because we have a shortage of housing. I think most people are aware of that. If you watch the news, you would be. We've literally got people sleeping in tents right now. Very sad. There's not enough houses to rent, not enough houses to buy. A lot of families have adult kids living at home, 28, 30 years old generally is the age these days that kids move out of home. And a reason for that is people just can't afford a deposit to buy a home a lot of the times. So they're staying at home. The other challenge we're seeing is many elderly parents are having to move into my generation. We're known as the sandwich generation. I've just turned 50. So not only are we having to help our kids' generation, a lot of us are also having to help our parents' generation because unfortunately a lot of them are on the pension. So they need a little bit of help. So we're known as the sandwich generation. If we have a look at investment choices, out of the following areas of investment, which do you believe provides the best investment strategy? When I ask that question to my new clients, most people say property. Most people understand that property does grow in value over time. You could buy the worst house in the worst street, and if you hold on to it for long enough, you'll make money. You don't need to be a rocket scientist. You just need to hold on to it for an appropriate time for that property to grow in value. The other one that most people are okay to invest in is shares, I find, but property and shares out of the five there tend to be the most popular assets to invest in. So if we think about property investment, I'd like you to rate yourself out of 10 right now, and you don't need to share it out loud, just in your head is fine. What would you rate yourself out of 10 in regards to investing in property? I like to ask people this question to know what we're starting with. Does anyone want to share what they're rating themselves out of 10?
For property investment, I'm going to say probably down around the 2.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same.
I'd probably say maybe a 4.
Yeah. Unless you've grown up around it or, like me, worked in a career learning how to do it properly, most people don't really know a whole heap about investing in property. And it's quite scary because when people do invest in property, they often don't get assistance. They go out and try it for themselves. If you think about after your own home, it's probably the second largest purchase that you'll buy, and if you're trying to do it on your own with very limited knowledge, often you can make some very common mistakes. When investing in property on your own is most people will go out and find something on the weekend, then they ring their bank begging for a mortgage. Please, please, please. The bank will ask you, do you own a home? And you'll say, well, yes, I do. And the bank will say, great, we'll happily lend you the money. And then what they do is they tie the two mortgages together. So if you default on your investment property loan, the bank can come and take your home to sell to recoup their money. So that's called cross-collateralization or cross-securitization. So when we're meeting with our clients, we're telling them not to do that. So we've got brokers that set up your finance correctly. So you must structure your finance correctly to avoid putting yourself at risk and losing the family home. That's a common mistake. Another one is most people will buy an investment property within 10 kilometres of their own home. So they can drive by it on the weekend. They know where the local shopping centres are. The school's just down the road. They're comfortable with the area. Challenge with that is, though, if that area doesn't perform, you've then got 2 eggs in your basket that aren't working. So always better to diversify and buy property in different areas and even in different states. So when partnering with Weathology, what we do for our clients is we put together a tailored strategic plan based on your goals and what you're wanting to achieve. So it's not a cookie cutter approach like many in my industry do. We actually tailor it to what's important to you and your family. So we have a look at how many years until you ideally would like to retire. Is it 10 years? Is it 15? Perhaps it's 20 years. And then we'll have a look at, what steps do we actually need to take in those years to get you the desired result? And the desired result is how much we want each year to live on. How much income do we need to be earning from our investments? And many people have never sat down and worked that out. Shockingly, most people don't actually know what their everyday living expenses are. And that's the best way to work out what you'll need to retire on. So you look at, how much is life costing us right now? And then you minus your mortgage repayments, because ideally you won't have a home loan by the time you retire, and the kids will have left home, so you can take off their expenses, and that will help you work out what you would need to be working towards to retire on. So, it could be 100 grand a year, 150, really depends on what your goals are. I've got a client, he wants to sail around the Mediterranean for a couple of years in his own yacht. He needs to purchase a few more properties than most of us who generally want to travel once a year, might want to help their kids buy their own home. Many of us want to do the caravan around Australia for 6 or 12 months. So you would need less income to do that kind of lifestyle than what you would if you want to sail around the Mediterranean in your own yacht for a couple of years. So we have a look at the goals and what's important to you, and then that will help us work out what the income figure would be that you would need to work towards. Finance structure is key. I spoke about cross-collateralisation. You don't want to do that. We don't want to be using our home as security, so we look at either using a different bank for the loan on the investment property, or we refinance and take your home loan to another bank that will set them up as standalone mortgages. So that's a really important thing to understand. If you are investing, you want to make sure that your finance is structured correctly. You also want to be using banks that will then help you duplicate and allow you to take equity out to use as a deposit to buy your next investment property, because most of us will buy more than one to hit our ideal income when we retire. Now, guidance, a holistic program. So it's all inclusive. We are with you every step of the way. We do a lot of guidance and education with our clients. So what I have found is the more you understand, the easier it is for you to continue on the journey. When there's limited knowledge, you're not able to ask questions, it all might be a bit too much, so you might not actually do anything at all. So I find that by having conversations, talking through it all with clients, answering their questions, and helping them have a look at what might stop them from moving forward is a really powerful way of helping them feel comfortable with the process, and then that will help them move forward and actually invest in property. I usually find the first one is challenging for a lot of people. They've never done it before, they're very uncertain, they may have heard some horror stories from a brother-in-law or the neighbour over the fence. But when you can actually understand how it all works, it's a little bit easier to move forward. And then the second one and the third one are a lot easier than the first one. So proven system, you literally plug into a blueprint. I've been helping clients invest for about 15 years now, and I've been investing myself for over 30. So I've put together a blueprint, step-by-step process. We've got a 125 checkpoint system that our clients go through, so nothing is missed, super efficient, and lots of education and information shared along the way. And then financial security, that's the big thing. That's what we're all working towards. We want to minimise the tax that we're paying. We've got some people who are paying, nearly half of their income in tax, which is just ridiculous. We want to reduce debt as well. So some of our clients who come to us may have a home loan, so we work with them to get that paid down quicker. But the big goal is we want to bring forward our retirement date. And retirement to us is actually the day you can choose to quit your job if that's what you want to do. It's a day you've got enough income coming in to live the life that you would like to. Many of us want to retire early, and we certainly want to retire in a better position than what we're currently in. So does anybody have any questions so far? Nope. Okay, great. So why property? Property is a tangible asset. You can see it, touch it.
Recording in progress.
We're recording. Okay.
I will stop recording on this end.
Oh, that's so funny. I wonder why that's kicked in. Anyway, so why property? Property is a tangible asset. You can see it, touch it, feel it, drive by it on the weekend. Many people feel comfortable with property because parents have invested in property and they've seen how much their mum and dad's property has grown in value. History shows that property generally will double every 10 years or so in capital cities across Australia. Proven track record. Generally appreciates over time, building long-term wealth. You can leverage it, so you can borrow against it. Rather than having to put cash in as a deposit to buy, you can actually borrow against your home and use equity as a deposit and not have to pay $1 out of your pocket. Minimal or no cash needed, simply use equity. Property offers tax advantages. So there's depreciation, negative gearing, and deductions that you can claim on a property as an investment property. It is a proven hedge against inflation. So rents and values of property typically rise as costs do. Banks see property as low risk assets. So if you think about borrowing to buy property, the bank usually will allow you to release up to 80% of the equity. So So the equity is the difference in the value of your home to your mortgage. So if the home's worth $1 million and you've got a mortgage of 500, you've got $500,000 worth of equity. The bank will allow you to borrow 80% of that 500,000. Some banks will give you 90%. So they will allow you to release that to use to invest. If you're thinking about borrowing money to invest in shares, often they'll let you only borrow 60 to 70%. So in the eyes of the bank, property is a safer bet. So they'll release more equity for you to invest in property than what they will in shares, interestingly. Multiple exit strategies, so you can sell it, you can refinance it and pull money out, you can rent short term. You can diversify with property, so you could invest in residential, it might be commercial, you could look at regional, you can invest in the big cities. Real estate allows forced growth, so you can add value to it. You could do some renovations, you can upgrade, you could develop it, you could even subdivide it, split a big block into 2 blocks and sell 1 block off, pay down your home loan. Provides passive income for life. So if you're buying the right kind of property, you can actually create passive income, which you can then live off in retirement. Australia has a population growth that is very strong. So we have many immigrants coming to the country, which is driving up prices, because the more people that want it, the higher the price. If you imagine this was the last pen in the world, how much would you pay for it? So the more people that want it, up goes the prices. So population growth always relates to the value of houses growing. Property is a universal need. People will always require a roof to live under, right? We don't want to live in tents. We want a roof, a house. You do maintain a degree of control over the asset. Unlike shares and managed funds, they can be a little bit volatile. Hot tip with shares, you want to buy them and then never look at them again. Just let them sit there for 20 years. You don't want to be checking in every day to see how your shares are performing. You might not get a lot of sleep if you're doing that. Rental demand often increases during housing shortages, which is exactly what we are experiencing now. We have a pretty major housing shortage all across most areas in Australia. If we look at Brisbane, this is where I am, 1.1% vacancy rate in Brisbane right now. So what that means is out of 100 houses, 1 house is available for rent. So people are actually queuing to go to open homes to rent property. And many people aren't moving at the moment because they know there's not much to move to. So when landlords are putting their rents up, they're taking the hit because they know there's not a lot of options out there. Some areas in Perth that we're investing our clients in are around 0.25% vacancy rate. That means there's a quarter of a house available out of every 100 houses right now. So literally nothing. Great for a landlord because that's the number one concern I get from clients when they buy a property is what happens if we can't rent it. Not really concerned right now because everything's been rented before it's actually been finished building. And if your tenant gives notice, a new tenant has signed a lease very, very quickly. So that's great news for investors. And historically, property has been one of the most consistent wealth creators across generations. So this actually shows you what house price growth has done in the month of August 2025. If we look at Brisbane, median house price hit $1 million back in March, early April this year. So $1 million median house price, crazy. But in the month of August, property prices went up 2.2%. So if you had a property worth $1 million, you made $22,000 in growth in the month of August alone. If you have a look at a 2-year growth period, so 29.1% in Brisbane, 25.1% in Adelaide, and 39.9% in Perth. We started to invest our clients into the Perth market about 2 years ago because we knew what was coming in Perth. And a lot of our clients have made, really great money in that property. So then we've pulled the equity out and they've then invested into the Brisbane market because now in Brisbane we're having a boom. We're getting really good growth now. But we've also got the Olympics coming in less than 8 years. So that's like a manufactured boom. Normally booms happen every 7 to 12-ish years. But in Brisbane, we're getting our boom very quickly. So if you can buy one now and then one in 5 or 6 years, you're going to get great growth in Brisbane. So it's really interesting to have a look at growth in the different areas because different areas grow at different times. 4 years ago, we were investing all of our clients into the Sydney market. 3 years ago, we were all investing into Melbourne. 2 years ago, Perth. And for the last 2 years, we've been investing clients into Brisbane because we knew what was coming in Brisbane. So when you're investing savvily, smartly, you follow the about to boom cycle. You don't buy all of your properties in the one city down the road from where you live because eventually your boom in your city will peter out and then it will just bump along for 6 or 7 years and then the next boom will happen. So good to diversify and buy into different cities as well so you can take advantage of the booms because you want to buy a property that's going to get really good growth very quickly. You don't want to wait 5 or 6 years for your property to get growth because that ties your hands for you to be able to pull equity out to get your next property. So this shows you what's been happening over the last 60 odd years. We started to keep formal records back in 1966. So if you have a look at Brizzy, you could buy a 4-bedroom house for just under $10,000. If you held on to that house for 10 years, it grew to $30,000 in value. So it actually tripled in value. So you'd be patting yourself on the back, wishing you'd bought 2 of them, but you couldn't afford that because you're only earning $40 a week or whatever they were earning in 1966. But if you held on to it for another 10 years, that property doubled again. So in 1986, median house price in Brisbane was just under $65,000. Another 10 years later, doubled in value. Another 10 years later, nearly tripled in value. Not quite, but nearly tripled. And then 10 years later, we had a bit of a blip. Does anybody know what the blip was in Brisbane between 2006 and 2016? Anyone hazard a guess?
No.
Most people say, oh, well, we had the GFC. We did have the GFC. But if you look at Melbourne, they had the GFC and they nearly tripled in value. Sydney had the GFC. They definitely doubled in value. In Brisbane, we had the floods. About 12 years ago, we had the really horrific floods here, and it had a pretty dramatic challenge on the property values here. Even if you weren't affected by water, if you were in a suburb that was, you immediately lost value in your home and the banks wouldn't release equity. So many of us were on hold, unfortunately, to purchase property. We just couldn't get equity out of our portfolio because of that. So we had a bit of a blip here, but we have recovered. 2025, you can see property values have doubled, and that's a 9-year time frame. So we made a comeback. So vacancy rates, if we have a look at these, have a look at the far right column, so July 2025, every city in Australia is under 2% vacancy rate. So that means less than 2 houses out of 100 are available for rent. So this is great for investors, not so great for renters that are trying to find somewhere to live. If you look at places like Darwin, there is nothing available for rent, really, in Darwin. Same with Perth, same with Adelaide, and Brisbane also. Very, very difficult to get properties to rent in those areas. So a little bit tough for people that are trying to find a rental property. Really great for us investors, though. So let's have a look at what population growth is doing, because population growth is a key ingredient in the success of property values and having them go north. If we look at the year ending December 2024, that's the latest statistics that are available, population grew by nearly 500,000 people. And the breakdown on that is, if you have a look at the orange, that is overseas migration. That's people immigrating from other countries and moving to Australia. So if you look at New South Wales, most of them are moving to Sydney. They had over 100,000 people, as did Melbourne, immigrate to those areas. If you look at the light blue, that's natural increase. So that's people having babies. So new babies being born in New South Wales had over 26, 27, 30,000 new babies born. And so all up, nearly 500,000 population growth in December 2024. And if you think about people immigrating to Australia, what do they need? They need a roof. They need a roof to live under, a home, and they need a job. So most people will move where their jobs are. And what we find is when people immigrate, they tend to rent for the first 3 to 4 years. They get themselves settled. They make sure that they're happy with the area, and they'll often move to where they might have family here or friends. It's generally what we find. So they'll rent for the first 3, maybe 4 years, get their feet on the ground, and then they'll look to buy. So any questions so far?
Oh,
Nope. We're all very quiet. Okay, so identifying goals is key to firstly understanding what it is that we're working towards, right? And most of us, we don't learn this at school, unfortunately. We don't learn financial education at school. We don't learn to work out, well, you know, what kind of life do we want to create for ourselves? We tend to, you know, a lot of us go to uni or get a trade. That's kind of what we were taught, my generation anyway. And then we get a job. Often we have debt from studying. We get a job in a company. We work our way up. We buy a home. And then we go to work, you know, 8 to 14 hours a day. We come home, throw our brain at the TV for 3 or 4 hours, eat a microwave meal, go to bed, get up, do it all again tomorrow. Not many of us sit down and think, well, what do we actually really want life to look like? And this is what, you know, your group is all about, right? It's creating the life that we actually really want to live, you know, whether it's, you know, like Belinda having an amazing, you know, renting out your home and then getting in a van or whatever you're doing and going and living a much better lifestyle. You know, a lot of our clients have got the goal to travel around Australia in the van for 6 months, 12 months continuously. Our marketing manager actually has been on the road for about 2.5 years now, traveling. Hayden's actually had 2 kids on that journey. So he's in a van with 2 little ones. He's a better man than I am. I've got 5-year-old triplets. I couldn't imagine being in a caravan driving around Australia with that. That would be a bit too exciting for me. I think I'd have to probably drink a lot more coffee. But yeah, look, it's really important to think about, well, what do we want life to look like? How many years have we got to make it happen? So if it's 15 years as the slide, what do we need to do in the next 15 years to create what we need in retirement to have the life that we actually want to live, to create the income? Most of my clients tell me that they would like to retire on between $80,000 and $100,000 per year. So what do we need to do? What do we need to buy? How many assets do we need to set ourselves up where we're getting that income, rent coming in from the houses?
Leonie, is that per couple or per person?
Per couple generally.
Yeah.
But it really depends on what's important to you. You know, I've got some clients, they want 300 grand a year because they want to go off to Africa and build mud huts and, you know, give back to their communities. And then I've got some clients that are happy on 60 or 70,000. They don't do a lot. They're quite happy, you know, just at home watching TV. So they've got, you know, smaller goals than some. So it really comes down to what's important to you and your family. A lot of my self-employed clients want more. Because they've got bigger plans, you know, they want to go off and, you know, help with charities or, you know, go off and do volunteer work overseas. There's a bit of a different mindset, I find, with people that are self-employed from people who are PAYG and are used to doing the 9 to 5 grind. But yeah, it really comes down to you and what's important to you. So this is an example of a plan that some of our clients do. Now, we design plans specifically for the person that we're in front of. So not everyone will be doing this plan. But when we met these clients, they wanted to move forward pretty quickly and they were in a financial position to do so. So we found them a property. 2 years later, they bought a second one. 2 years after that, they bought their third one. In year 6, they bought a fourth one. And in year 8, they bought a 5th property. So the value of that portfolio is about $4 million. And so what we said to client is we now hold on to those assets. We don't sell anything. We be a good landlord. We fix things if it breaks. We hire good property managers who find good tenants. So we just sit back and we relax. We do our tax return each year and we get some money back. And then we just wait for the portfolio to grow, to work its magic. So these clients wanted to retire in 15 years. So we acquired all of their assets by year 8, and then we just sat back and relaxed. In year 15, that portfolio had grown by about $2 million in those last 7 years. That's at a 6% growth rate, which is pretty conservative. If you look at property and how it's grown over the last 20 years or so, it's about 8 to 9% per year. So 6% is pretty conservative. You'll notice they haven't paid down any of their debt though. The reason for that is because they had a home loan. So we focus on paying down their home first before we ever pay off any debt on their investment portfolio. The reason for that is your home loan is a non-tax deductible debt. You can't claim anything back on your home loan. Whereas with your investment debt, you can claim a portion back of your mortgage repayments each month. So you want to have high investment debt and low owner-occupier debt. So strategically, we manage where we put the money and pay off what debt first. So these clients now have a choice. They could sell their portfolio and come out with 2.8 million minus their selling costs and capital gains, or better, they hold on to that portfolio, maybe sell one, pay off their home loan if they've still got some. Often people will buy in their self-managed super fund, and when you hold on to that asset until retirement age, if you sell it, there's no capital gains tax paid on a self-managed super fund property. Whereas if you've got property that you've purchased using equity, you will pay capital gains tax. So we could sell one, pay down home loan debt if we still have a mortgage, or pay down some debt on our portfolio. And the less debt you have means the more income that you're getting in your hand each week to live off. So different plans for different clients based on what's important to them. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
I would
Very
imagine, Leonie, if you're lucky enough to be in a situation that you own your home,
Yeah.
that would give you a healthier start.
Yeah, you're definitely ahead of the game. But you don't necessarily need to own nothing on your home. You just need enough equity in there that we can pull out and use as a deposit for the investment property.
Yep.
So
Okay.
right now, if we're thinking about Brisbane, a 4-bedroom house in Brisbane is going for around the $850,000 mark, can you believe?
Yeah.
So to buy into that, if you're looking at a 10% deposit, you'd need $85,000 plus your stamp duty, plus your solicitor's fee. So say $150,000, right? So you've got a bit of a buffer.
Yep.
You need $150,000 to be able to buy an investment property.
Okay.
And a lot of people think they've got to save up their cash to use as a deposit. It's a really common belief because you don't. You just borrow against your home. So you could ring the bank tomorrow and take out a loan to buy a car on your home loan if you wanted to. And the bank will give you $100,000 and you can go off and buy a car and pay 6 or 7% interest on it. Many people don't know that. So they go to the car yard and they sign them up to a car loan through finance, and you're paying 20-25% interest rate on some of those car loans. You don't need to do that. If you've got a home or an investment property, you can borrow on that to buy a home and pay only 6 or 7% interest. So often when we meet clients, they might have a number of credit cards, personal loans, HEX debt, car loans. What we'll do is we'll actually integrate all of those loans into their home loan, so get them onto a cheaper interest rate. So you still pay your car loan off over the 5 years. You don't pay it off over 30 years for your mortgage. Pay it off over the 5 years. So you make the same repayments, but you just save yourself on interest. So it's strategically setting up your finance in a way where it's going to benefit you.
Leonie, do you have to have a cash component if you've got the equity in your home?
No, not at all. In fact, if you did have cash, we wouldn't recommend that you use it. We would pull equity out of your home. So I helped a client earlier tonight get their next property. They've just bought their second investment property in about 12 weeks with me. Really great, lovely South African couple. And they have $200,000 in the bank right now, but we won't use any of their cash. We'll borrow against their home and take it out as a loan, which is a tax deductible loan. So we can claim a portion of the interest back on that loan. And then we borrow the other 90% from another bank. So you'll have two loans. You'll have an equity loan on your home for 10%, and then you have a 90% loan from another bank. And those two loans combined will buy the property.
Interesting.
So those two loans are both tax deductible, whereas your home loan is not.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So we don't increase your home loan. We take out a completely separate loan. It's called an equity loan or a line of credit or a deposit loan.
And it's essentially secured against the investment property only, not the home loan, is what you're saying.
No, it's secured against the home loan because it's attached to that asset. But for tax purposes, it's attached to the investment property.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got to set your finance up strategically. So at tax time, your accountant can see what repayment is related to what loan. So when you submit your tax return, the ATO knows that that loan for 150,000 is related to investment property number one. It's not related to your home loan. So then they can claim a portion of that back, which then reduces the amount of tax that you have to pay to the ATO.
That makes sense rather than taking it out as an extension of the home loan. That's interesting.
Yeah. So as an example, the property that we helped clients purchase tonight, purchase price was $865,000, and that was going to cost the client $119 a week out of pocket at a 6% interest rate on the mortgage, and it was going to save them $22,488 in tax.
That's significant.
Oh, it's huge. Because if you're only paying $50,000 in tax a year, you've only got to buy 2.5 houses, right? 3 houses to be able to pay no tax to the ATO. We've got many clients that don't actually pay any tax because they've bought sufficient properties to offset the amount of tax that they pay. If you're a lower income payer, so if you earn a lower income, you pay less tax than if you're earning $150,000 a year and paying $50,000 in tax, which means you have to buy less property to not pay tax. Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of people think they've got to pay $1,000 a week for an investment property, but it's just not true. Most of our clients will pay less than $200 per week to own an investment property. That's the holding cost. So if you added up all of the costs for the year, so your mortgage repayments, your property management fee, your insurances, your rates, etc., you added them all up and put them into a spreadsheet, and then you added up all of your rent, and then you added up your tax savings. At the end of the year, most properties right now, with the interest rates as they are costing you less than $150 per week to hold that asset. Now, if you think, it's going to cost me, 12 to 15 grand a year to hold the asset, how much is it going to grow for the year?
Yeah.
In Brisbane, in the last 12 to 18 months, every property that our clients own has grown by between $100,000 and $180,000. So if you go to the casino and put 15 grand on the table and you get 100 grand back, is that a good investment?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, I'd put 15 grand on and walk out all day, every day. My question is how many can I buy? Most people don't understand the numbers, and they may have heard horror stories about, my tenant punched a hole in the wall, or nobody paid rent for 2 weeks. The insurance covers off a lot of that, thankfully, and using a good property manager who then vets very well and finds good tenants is another key to having a successful property investment journey. Some people try and rent things out themselves, and go and collect rent every Friday afternoon. And some people don't have insurance, which is just, crazy. So if you do it the right way, property investing is actually very easy and we don't have too many issues. All right. These, you see on Today Tonight, somebody's trashed somebody's house and moved out and not paid rent. Yes, of course that happens, but it doesn't happen as often as some people might believe. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I think I've met 3 people who have had an experience like that. Some people, you might miss out on a week or two's rent, or maybe, somebody's done, like the hole in the wall situation. Yeah, that can happen. But very rarely do you hear the horror stories. It's not as common as some people believe them to be.
Do you accommodate insurance in there to cover those sort of damages?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a good question actually, because this slide is relevant to that. So, what we do with our clients is you work with us, and then at relevant stages, we'll introduce you to the expert that's going to help you with that particular stage. So, first up, it's the finance specialist or the mortgage broker to work out, well, what can you actually afford to do? What does your financial situation look like? And then if you can afford to do something, then we will connect you with the builder. So we source the house and land package for you. If you can't afford to do something, then we have a look at, well, what steps do we need to take to get you to the point where you can? And often it's time for the market to grow. You know, a lot of our clients may own their own home, might not have enough equity. So it's just time. You know, it could be 6 months or 12 months to wait for some growth in the market where we do have sufficient equity to pull out. It could be, well, how much can we save to be able to get us, you know, closer to that date? You know, people on big incomes often are spending willy-nilly. Credit card keeps working, right? So a lot of my higher income clients have absolutely no idea what their living expenses cost them because they don't need to know. The credit card just keeps working. Whereas a lot of my lower income clients, they know exactly where every dollar goes because they have to, right? Yeah. They have to work with a budget. They can't just, you know, book a week to Bali. They don't have the funds to do that. So it's really interesting. The more money people generally make, the more money they spend. Yeah. And I've done it myself. You know, I used to have when I first got into property investing as a career, I was on $55,000 a year. I was a personal assistant to the state manager. And about 18 months in, the CEO offered me a sales role. So my income bumped up to about 85, 90,000. And then about 18 months later, I was promoted to the Queensland State Manager, and my income doubled pretty much overnight, which was an exciting place to be. But what I noticed is, you know, when I got the sales role promotion, all of a sudden I was drinking the $20 bottles of red wine, yeah? And then I was promoted to the Queensland State Manager. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try a $50 bottle of wine, you know? Like, you spend more money because you've got more money. I'll drive a fancier car, or I'll buy a more expensive handbag, or whatever it might be, right? More money's coming in the door, so more money goes out the door.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have a plan for your money. If you don't have a plan for it, it just will flow out the door. I remember I used to go to Woolies grocery shopping, and I'd be standing there at the counter waiting for somebody to scan my groceries, and oh yeah, what's Prince Charles doing this week, you know? And all of a sudden I'm walking out with $30 worth of magazines, and I redid my budget, and I saw that expense, and it's only $30 a week, but it all adds up, right? And I was like, oh God, that's $1,500 a year I'm spending on magazines that I read once and throw out. Maybe I should stop doing that and put that into my mortgage. So, you know, sometimes you can get off track, but it's really good to have a plan for your money to reduce the amount of money that just walks out the door. Yeah, so going back to our team, so with insurance, yeah, we absolutely do. We have an insurance broker that we will refer our clients to at the relevant stage. It's usually towards the end of the build of the property. And then she will look across the market like our broker does. He'll look at all the lenders to find out which bank will suit you best. She does the same with insurance companies. So she'll organise your building insurance and contents if you need that. Usually don't, because that's the tenant's job, but you will need building insurance. And you can also take out tenant's insurance to insure you against the tenant, which I recommend. Yeah, but you know, we've got a solicitor that we use that specialises in contracts. We've got building inspectors that will go out and have a look at the build as it's being built. They actually go out twice, and they make sure that that house has been built in line with the contract. You know, what you've paid for is what you get. We've got a quantity surveyor that will go out and do a depreciation schedule for you. So depreciation is a really good tool for investors that want to claim back the maximum amount on their properties. Scarily, 70% of investors don't have a depreciation schedule. So their accountant is claiming back the bare minimum that they can on their tax return. We organise a depreciation schedule and it lists out for the next 40 years what the value of that building will be, and then your accountant can claim 2.5% of the value of that building each year. So as an example, tonight's clients can claim back about $16,000 in year one on depreciation of the building. Think about a new car, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, it decreases in value. But each year you can claim depreciation on that car if you have it for a business. Same with a house, an investment property. You can claim back depreciation on the value of that building because it is dropping in value. So when you look at property, it's the land that grows or appreciates in value, and the house actually depreciates. So you can claim a percentage of that back on your tax return each year. So savvy investors know by buying off the plan brand new property, you can claim maximum depreciation, which means you get more back on your tax. Whereas if you went across the road and bought a 50-year-old house, there's no depreciation on it unless you're doing renovations. So hot tip, don't buy a house that's over 40 years old because there's no depreciation that you can claim back on it. We have a bit of a joke in our industry. As soon as a house hits its 40th birthday, you may as well bulldoze it and build again because there's no depreciation. I know I've literally just sold a house today, my old family home I bought 10 years ago in Balmoral. I paid $700,000 for it 10 and a half years ago. I sold it today for $1.53 million. And it's about 35 years old. A builder bought it. He's going to knock it down. He literally bought it for the land. Can't buy anything in Balmoral's right next to Bulimba. It's one of the most exclusive and most expensive suburbs in Brisbane. It's probably the second most expensive suburb. You pay literally $1.5 million for a block of dirt, which is exactly what he did today, 684 square metre block. And so, yeah, exciting times for him. So we've also got property managers because they're going to be your best friend. Once that house is built and handed over to your property manager, they will take that on, get the marketing organised, get the photos done, write up the copy for you, and then get it advertised, do the open homes, and then do the vetting. So there's 2 blacklists in Australia that property managers can put tenants who haven't behaved in the way that they should onto these blacklists. So they'll check those, and then they'll do a series of open homes, get the lease agreement signed, do all the checks, check they're employed, check their income, can make sure that they're able to pay the rent, and then they'll manage that property for you. So if you live in Adelaide and you're investing in Brisbane, you've got someone here on the ground looking after that asset for you. You don't have to live in the same city that you're investing in. And then finally, your accountant. You need a good accountant that understands investing in property. You don't want to use a shares specialist accountant because they specialise in shares. So you want to use somebody that actually knows what they can claim to make sure that you're getting the maximum deductions back on that asset. So we have a great team. Most of our team have been working with us for at least 4 years, and many of them, 7 or 8 years. The clients that bought tonight, they bought with one of our builders. We've been working with them for 8.5 years. They've been helping our clients with house and land packages. So that's great. Great builder, good relationship, very good at what they do, great workmanship, brilliant customer service. We've had our solicitor now for probably 5 or 6 years. They've been helping with our clients, our accountant 4 years. So it's a really great team. They all work really well together as well. So we all understand the journey that the client's going on. We understand that they're building a portfolio. It's not a one-hit wonder. The property manager's not trying to get the client to sell that property in 3 years. That's not the model. It's a buy, hold, and duplicate it. So you buy the house, you hold on to it, and once it's had enough growth, you then pull equity out, you duplicate, you do it again. So any questions on that?
So with your team, are all the costs of your team tax deductible?
Yep, everything's tax deductible. The only thing you can't claim back, unfortunately, is the solicitor's fee to purchase the property.
Yep.
And you also can't claim stamp duty. They're the
Yep.
two things that you can't claim back.
Yep. Yep.
But everything else is fully tax deductible. So the way it works is it depends on what your tax rate is. So if you're a high income earner and you're paying 45 cents in the dollar, every dollar you spend on the investment, you can claim 45 cents in the dollar back.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, and your accountant will obviously work all that out for you. You don't need to try and do that yourself.
Yeah.
You know, for $300 or $400, you can get your tax return done by a professional and make sure that you're getting back exactly what you should be getting back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Alrighty, so next slide. So this is our system. So we review your position financially when we first meet to find out what opportunities there are. We then design a personalised strategy around your goals. So how many years until you want to retire, what kind of income you would like when you do retire. So all of our clients have their own unique plan. Everyone's got different goals they're working towards. We'll then go out and locate the land and design the house with the builder that will suit our ideal tenant. Now, our ideal tenant is a family. So generally it's a 4-bedroom house, double lock-up garage, in a community where they've got parks, schools, good transport close by. So we're looking at the infrastructure. So where's the government putting their money? There's an area here in Brisbane, it's called a PDA, or a priority development area. The government is injecting literally billions of dollars into this pocket. And they're fast tracking applications through council. So a really highly desired area to invest in, quite difficult to get land in there because of the amazing infrastructure. Because a good infrastructure will bring growth in the value of that property. It also brings the people to the area. You know, if you've got good schools, that's the number one question that most tenants will ask if they've got kids is how far is the local school? I've just bought a new home. Local school's 500 metres down the road, right? I can walk my kids to school. That was a priority for me. Not that I'm renting, I bought, but that was priority for me. I don't want the kids on a bus for half an hour going to school. We also look at good transport. People don't want to drive 20 minutes off the highway to get home. They want good road close by, good highways, main roads close by. They also want trains, buses, because not everyone's a 2-car family. And in a lot of areas where people are renting, often they are a 1-car family, right? Could be stay-at-home mum or stay-at-home dad is becoming really popular. So they don't necessarily have 2 cars, so they do want to be close to good transport. We've got an area, that priority development area that I was talking about. There's a train line in with council awaiting for approval. Another reason why we invest in that area, because as soon as that train line is approved, the value of the land will grow exponentially. I actually invested 10 years ago on the northern side of Brisbane because they were doing a train line extension. Pretty much the weekend that was approved, the value of my land went up by about $150,000. So they're the kinds of things that we're looking for to identify areas to invest our clients into. It's not just a lucky dip. Oh, look, that one looks great. We'll just get a contract signed on that. It's very much, we've got a very strict criteria list and we must tick off all of the boxes on the list before we would ever present a property to a client, because we need that property to work well so we can get growth to pull equity out to then have them move forward and buy their second property. So it's not a guessing game, it's very strategic in where we invest our clients because we need fast growth so they can then continue to build their portfolio. We then will get the property manager to find good tenants. They'll move in. The rent that comes in will help cover the running costs of the property, or holding costs, we often refer to as. And then also the tax savings from the ATO will help support the running costs of that asset. So you've got cash flow coming in, you've got growth on the value of that asset. So then we do it again, how many times we need to hit the goal. So some of our clients might have 2 properties, some might have 4 or 5 properties, depends really on what their end result is. Usually one's not enough. We do find that most people will need to buy at least 2 properties to be able to have a reasonable income coming in for their retirement.
Cool.
Alrighty, so if we have a look at our tax, if we in our own minds, you don't need to say this out loud. If you think about what your income is, and then have a look just to the right of that under the column that says annually, and you can work out your tax. So if we have a look at today's client, he was earning 150,000, so he was paying nearly $50,000 in tax, a third of his income. So he goes to work Monday and half a Tuesday and he doesn't get paid, right? Half a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, he gets paid to go to work. But for the first part of the week, he works for free because he's paying tax to the ATO. When you invest in property, you can claw back that tax, and it's all completely legal. You just need to use the right accountant, and you need to invest in the right kind of property. If you buy a 45-year-old house, you're not getting as much back as what you would if you're buying a brand new off-the-plan property. Yeah? It's one of the reasons I sold my house in Balmoral, because it was 35, 36 years old, as an investment property. I would never have bought that as an investment, but I bought it as a home and I lived in it for 6, maybe 7 years, and then I moved out and I rented it out. But I would never have bought it as an investment property because it just doesn't work. There's no depreciation. And it cost a fair bit in maintenance because it was older. So things need fixing on older properties, whereas brand new, generally you don't have to do anything to them for the first 8 to 10 years. They're all covered by builders' warranties as well, which is great. But if we have a look at the $150,000 income, if that client continues working for 20 years and their income doesn't increase, now usually your income goes up right over time, just say it stayed at 150 every year for the next 20 years, that client's paying nearly $1 million in tax. Now that's an investment property right there. And they're both on high incomes. So between them, they're earning about $300,000 a year, which means they're paying $2 million in tax over the next 20 years if they don't buy investment properties and offset their tax. Now, most people do this all day, every day, because we don't learn about it at school. Imagine if we learned about this at school. We wouldn't be doing this, yeah?
Correct.
We would be strategically investing to reduce the amount of tax that we're paying out of our pocket and creating wealth so we can retire at 40, 45 years old and actually live the life we really want to. Now, retirement just means having freedom. It doesn't mean giving up your job. It means that you can choose to have a job if you want to, or you can choose to not have a job because you've got sufficient income coming in each week to live. Yeah? I've got many clients who have given up their job earning, 200 grand a year, and they now consult, and they might work 1 or 2 days from their home office, earning lots of money per hour because they've got the skill set, and they get to hang out with their kids. They actually get to grow up with their kids. How great would that be? Many people we meet when they first come to us, they're working 45, 55 hours a week. They go to work in the dark, they come home in the dark, they don't even get to see their kids. So it depends what's important to you as to what you need to do to create that life, right? So I wanted to put this slide in because I often talk to my clients about mindset. Mindset's key to creating wealth. Most people ask me questions about the property. And I say property is literally the vehicle. It's the thing that's going to grow the money. But this is the thing that's going to create real wealth for you, because we have to work on this first to get you to a point where you're actually comfortable to move forward with a property purchase. Many of us have limiting beliefs, whether we're aware of them or not. We've got these programs running subconsciously that we may not be aware of. A really common one, and all of us heard this when we were growing up. We can't afford it. Like you go to a shop and you hear little kids asking mum or dad, "Mum, I want this, Mum, I want that." I get it when I go to the shops. Parents will say, "No, we can't afford it. You can't have it. We can't afford it." Terrible thing to say to your kids. I make a point of not ever, those words never come out of my mouth to my kids. I will say something along the lines of, "That's not priority right now," or "We're putting our money into something else." Yeah, we're saving to go to SeaWorld for a weekend, right? We took the kids to SeaWorld a while back. they ask me every now and then, Mum, when can we go back to SeaWorld? So if they ask me for a lollipop at the shop or a new dress or whatever, I'm like, no, we're saving to go to SeaWorld, right? That's a common thing I say. We're putting our money into something else. We're prioritizing our money. We're not just wasting it on a $20 toy at Big W that will be broken next week. I don't ever say we can't afford it because I don't want my kids to ever have that belief. Yeah, there's enough money out there for all of us. But we have these limiting beliefs. Another one is my dad used to say it to me all the time. He said, "Oh, you weren't born in a tent, right?" My dad would go around and turn off all the lights all the time.
Yep.
And I do that myself, right? Now, all the time, I go around, I turn all the lights off. So we've all got these limiting beliefs that run, and often that will prevent people from choosing to create the life they actually really want. Yeah.
Yep.
Sadly, some people I meet, I'll present to them, show them the numbers, answer all their questions, go through all their concerns, but they just can't get out of their own way. They're their biggest obstacle. And the numbers are there in black and white. It's actually very simple to invest in property if you know what you're doing, if you're working with the right person, right? If you're trying to do it on your own, often that's when you can get into a bit of strife. But often we do get in our own way. I had clients last week. I've been working with them for about 3 months. We've had 4 coaching calls. They understand the numbers. It was going to cost them about $129 out of their pocket each week. Big income earners, they earn about $280,000 combined in their household. They have more than enough to put towards that. They had disposable income of about $1,500 a week, and this was going to cost them less than $150. So there was no real risk, but they just couldn't get their head around it. They were so worried about what could go wrong. They couldn't look at what could go right. They kept saying to me, "Oh, what if it goes wrong?" And I said, "Okay, well, let's chat that through. What could go wrong?" "Oh, they might set the kitchen on fire." "Okay, they might. So we could get insurance for that. We could get a good property manager who's going to vet them well. Oh, but what happens if we can't rent the property out?" "Okay, well, let's look at that. We've got less than, in Brisbane, it's 1.1% vacancy rate right now. So if your tenants give notice to move out, they've got to give 2 weeks notice. In those 2 weeks, you'll easily find a tenant." I've just been through that process. I moved out of a rental property and bought this place. That place went within 7 days, it was rented, and that was a $1,000 a week property. And so we looked at all the things that could go wrong and we went through that process, but they just couldn't allow themselves to look at what could go right. So they didn't move forward with a property. So unfortunately, they'll continue paying their $100,000 a year in tax, and then 3 years down the track, we'll probably reconvene and we might try it again. So we often get in our own way, and it usually comes down to what beliefs we have, what negative thoughts we have running through our mind.
That sort of things is very true.
Yeah. Now, these are some of our amazing clients. We've got some video testimonials on our website if you want to have a look at them. Just a little screenshot. We've got many clients that come to us as referrals. In fact, most of these clients were referred to us by clients who are already working with us. Angela on the top left, she actually came to a live event of mine. We both learnt how to coach from the same coach. So Scott Harris coached her how to be a coach as well. And she'd been thinking about investing for about 5 years, very switched on lady in her business, but had no idea when it came to finances. Single lady, so she had nobody really to bounce off of or, to go on the journey with. So I became her surrogate husband, if you like. She's a great lady and she's made a lot of money in the last 3 years. Andre, top right, he's actually referred 5 clients to me in the last 4 months. He was referred to me and he's now referred 5 of his colleagues. His wife referred one of her colleagues late last year. And one of his referrals was the clients that actually bought that property this afternoon. So great guy. He really put me through the ringer. He had 1,000 questions, super analytical. He's an engineer, right? So he likes to cross all the T's, dot all the I's. And so he vetted us very heavily before he was happy to move forward, which is great, right? Ask the questions, learn about it all. Don't not ask the questions and then not do anything. Ask the questions. Let's talk openly. And yeah, so he moved forward. So he's actually got 2 with us now. He's considering his 3rd. Ben down the bottom, he had a self-managed super fund property already, but wanted to buy something with equity. So we helped him about 2 years ago. Malcolm and Nola, his auntie had actually been referred to me by her financial advisor. They bought 3 houses with us and then brought Malcolm along to one of our live events. They've now bought a couple with us. So we've got some great clients. Mitch and Kelly on the left. I've been working with Mitch and Kelly for about 10 years now. They've got 3 investment properties and they're 35 years old. They've just had their 3rd baby, so they've been on hold. They've been a bit busy, but they'll buy a couple of properties and, they'll be able to retire at the age of 45 if they choose to. So yeah, we've been, I've got clients I've been working with for 15 years. I've got one client, Andre, he has 7 investment properties and his own home. He's retired his wife, and he now works part-time hours. And they've got young kids. Their kids are about 9 and 10-ish. So he gets to hang out with his kids now, which was his goal. And he helps his parents over in Indonesia. He sends money home to help his parents, who literally live over a river in a mud hut. So, we've got some really great success stories. So it's exciting to see the amazing results. But look, here's why clients choose to work with us. Number 1, maximum capital growth. So we look at areas where you're going to get the most amount of growth in the shortest amount of time. You want to grow your money quickly. You don't want it to take 15, 20 years, right? So you've got to strategically invest in those areas that are going to give you quite quick growth. Good infrastructure is key. So schools, shops, jobs and transport are the top 4. I also like to look for green spaces, so parks, bike paths for the kids, sporting fields, because lot sizes are not what they used to be. We're not all living on 1,000 square metres anymore. We're looking at 3 to 450 square metres in Brisbane is standard at the moment. The one I helped the clients buy tonight was a 375 square metre block.
That's pretty much the same in Perth.
Yeah. I mean, Perth's exactly the same.
Yep.
In Melbourne,
Yep.
less than 200 square metres. They're 3-story houses. You drive into the garage at the front and out the garage at the back down the laneway to get out of your property.
Oh, that's terrible.
Because the value of land's gone up so much.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to afford a 1,000 square metre block these days.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
And low vacancy rates are key, right? We look at areas where they have a low percentage of investment properties and a higher percentage of owner-occupier houses. So you don't want to invest into an estate where everything is an investment property, because they can turn into ghettos. And, you've probably driven past these things. You see all broken down cars out the front. Nobody's taking care of their garden. Trailers are parked out on the street. You don't want to invest into those kind of estates. So it's really important to make sure that you're buying into an area where there's a high percentage of owner occupiers, because we're all adding value on the weekend. We might be building in the garage to create a 5th bedroom. We might be doing landscaping. We might be painting. We're adding value. So the value of your investment property increases because of the work of all of the owner occupiers around you. And it doesn't cost you a cent. So it's a proven system. You literally plug in. We're very results driven. We need to get results for you to have success, so then we can duplicate and get you your next one. We don't have any success if you're not having any success. And we do want to make sure that finance and tax structures are set up correctly, but also to help you pay off your home loan sooner. Properties we find include off the plan, generally with a rental yield of between 4 and 7%, depending on which city you're investing in. Brisbane right now, you'll get a 4.5 to 5.5% return, a bit closer to 6.5% if you're buying a duplex. So a duplex is one house with 2 houses in it with a wall that goes down the middle. So you can rent them out separately to 2 different families. So you get 2 lots of rent, gives you a better return. They do cost you a little bit more, however, because there's 2 kitchens, 3 bathrooms, compared to a 4-bedroom house. We offer fixed price full turnkey. Now, this is really important. There are many builders out there that will have you sign a contract, but you may also then need to add on a carpet and blind pack, or you may need to add on a driveway pack to your contract. So the contract will often just be the shell, and then you've got to add on anything else, or do it yourself. Get your mates out there on the weekend and lay the turf. We actually package everything up, so it comes full turnkey. Means you can literally back the truck up, turn the key, and everything is there. It comes with a driveway, mailbox, fully fenced, landscaping, carpet. It is all there. There's no additional costs, no nasty surprises. So it's really important to make sure that you sign in a contract like that, because most builders don't do it that way. We do an individualised tailored plan for you, focusing on your goals and what it is that you're wanting to achieve. We'll show you how your tenant and the taxman will pay off your home loan, so there's a lot of education. By building you unlock a range of tax benefits and rental incentives. So once we decide that we want to move forward with a property, whenever I present a property, here's the fancy marketing brochure, here's all the research, here's the house plan. I also present a cash flow report, otherwise known as a property investment analysis report. Many accountants will present those to clients who have investment properties. And that's the numbers. It will show you how much it will cost you out of pocket each week, what your property management fee will be, what the rent will be for the year. So that's what you should be paying attention to, the numbers, not the colour of the paint. Yeah, no one pays more for white tiles than they do for cream coloured tiles. Okay, so yes, look at that, but this is what you want to pay attention to. How much per week is it going to cost me out of pocket? How much tax savings is it going to give me? And what is it going to be worth in 10 years? So really important. We act as your buying agent at no cost. So we actually go out and we source the land. We get the house designed for you. You don't have to go out and try and do that for yourselves. Usually people buy property one of three ways. They'll either pay somebody a fee and they'll go to a big event on a weekend and you sit there madly scribbling notes and it might cost you 10 or 15 grand to go to a 4-day event, and then you're left to your own devices to go and find that unicorn property that they all spoke about. Or you'll have somebody come out, flop out a contract, sign here. There's been no education, there's no strategy, there's no understanding of, well, why are we buying that property rather than something else? The third way is you go out, give it a bash with your very limited information and hope for the best. So they're the three ways that people generally will buy investment property. And the fourth way is they work with somebody like me that has the runs on the board, educates. We have a strategic plan that we're working with together, and there's a lot of understanding from the client of why we're actually buying that property. As I quickly worked out when I first started in this industry is the more the client understood what was happening, the easier it was for them to actually move forward, but also to continue with their second one and their third one. First one's usually the hardest because it's, it can be quite uncertain. People don't like uncertainty generally. There's comfort in knowing what's coming next. We're investors, so I've been investing for a long time. I've been around the block a few times. Good to work with somebody that actually has gone on the journey that you are about to embark on. We understand the highs and the lows, the emotions that come with it. Investing in property isn't always easy. There are often hoops to jump through, particularly when it comes to the finance side of things. Banks can make it really challenging, particularly if you're a self-employed person. Can make getting finance quite a bit harder than if you're, PAYG working for a company. We provide a holistic approach, so we are with you every step of the way, helping you to become financially secure. And we do focus on reducing debt. That's a big thing. So when we first meet, we have a look at, well, what debt do you currently have and what is the plan to get rid of it, right? We want to get rid of debt as quickly as possible. So we'll work out a plan on how that can happen for you to save you a bit of money. We want to minimise tax that you're paying, and we create wealth along the way while having some fun. We've got a really great level of customer service. I'm not shy to say that. You've got to toot your own horn. No one else will. I work very closely with my clients. Everyone's got my mobile number. In fact, one of my clients was, she actually became my nanny when the whole COVID situation was happening. She was a nurse and was told if she didn't get the COVID injection, she was going to lose her job in 4 weeks. And her husband didn't want to have the COVID injection. So she rang me in a mad panic. What do I do? They had 6 investment properties at the time. 5 of those they had bought with me. And so we went into attack mode and we got all of her portfolio refinanced, got her onto the lowest interest rate, reduced her outgoings as much as we could. We took out a loan, so she had a bit of a buffer there until they could get employment. And I said to her, look, I don't know if this would suit, but my nanny's literally resigned this morning. She got her dream job as a midwife. And I'm looking for somebody to come and help me with kids. And she said, oh, I'd love to do that. So I said, look, cash in hand, hope nobody works for the ATO. And she came and worked with us, with my family, for 2.5 years. And she actually comes and helps out every now and then. I go off every quarter to Sydney for my business mentors coaching week away. And so she comes and helps out with the kids while I'm away. I've been helping Francie and Simon for 14 years create wealth for them to retire in a better way. They rang me probably 4 years ago to help their son buy his first home. We don't standardly do first homes. We tend to specialise in investing. But we helped their son find his dream home. So that was really nice, helping the next generation. Any questions so far?
No, you've sort of highlighted everything pretty well there.
Okay, great. So I have a couple of
The only question I was going to have further back was your website, and you've just listed that there. So yeah.
Yeah, so we do a lot on social media. We post daily across the platforms. I find the more people understand things, the easier it is for them. So, we spend a lot of time and energy in creating education to share out there into the world. So feel free to come and follow us. I usually ask clients at this point, can you see any reason why you should put off creating financial security? Most people answer no to that. And then my next question is property investment something that we wish to investigate further? Is it something you want to know more about? And for those of you on this call that would like to, my slides have disappeared. Those of you that would like to, you can book in and spend some time with me. I usually spend 20 or 30 minutes with people just to have a bit of a chat about their situation. Gordon's going to send that out on an email for anybody that might like to do that.
Yep.
And so I've got after hours appointments in the next week in there if anybody wants to do after hours. Otherwise, I'm free most of the days as well.
No worries.
So that's I've come to the end of my presentation. So we were going to do some Q&A right now. So let's do that. Does anybody have any specific questions that I can go through? We have been answering them as we move through the program. But
I'd just like to pass this on to my son. It probably doesn't apply to me so much. I'd like to, he's a 30-year-old business owner. They both work in the medical. He's physio, his wife's I can't remember what she's in the hospital. I'd just like to pass this on to him. Maybe he can get stuff out of it.
Yeah, more than happy to have a chat to him. I actually can pop the link into the chat if you would like to take it from there.
Yeah.
You can send the link on. Yeah.
I just photoed the okay.
Yeah.
Yep. No worries.
Yeah, so feel free to copy that and send that on to him. Arrange a time to chat.
Yep. Okay.
Nice questions this end, Leonie, just to say that was fantastic. I got a lot out of it, and I'll book in for a chat with you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Belinda.
Yeah. It's very informative. I've been down this path sort of quite a while ago, and like I say, I'm retired now, so I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
So-
And it's really unfortunate that we don't learn about any of this at school. And unless you've got a family that,
Yeah.
you know, and this is one of the reasons why the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, is because the wealthy people are looking at, well, how can we reduce our tax? Like that's a key focus for a lot of wealthy people, is how can we reduce the amount of money that's flowing out of our door, and surrounded by other wealthy people that know the stuff. You know, when I was growing up, we'd have barbecues on the weekend, and people that would come over would be other tradies, you know, like plumbers and other
Yeah.
carpenters that my dad was working with. You know, we hang
Yep.
out with, you know, barristers and doctors and people that seem to know about wealth creation.
Yep.
You know, it's who you surround yourself with, right? So it comes back to the team. You know,
Yep.
we've got such an amazing team that really understands how to create wealth for our clients.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's all
Definitely.
about. Education's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Well, it is. It really is.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, well, if you're finished there, Leonie, I'll sort of close it off if you like. Is there any other questions? Anyone have any other questions? No, we're all good. All right. Well, I'll do a closing and then I'll shut the video off. And, you want any other further chat after that, we can do for a few minutes. So anyway, in closing, I'm just going to say, well, thank you very much, ladies, for attending today. I'm sorry we haven't got a few more numbers. We had a real hiccup with the emails, apparently. So, but anyway, let's wrap up today's session. And a huge thank you to Leoni Fitzgerald for sharing her story, her wisdom, and those powerful strategies around wealth and mindset. You've sparked some big shifts today, and we're all better for it, I believe. For everyone who showed up, asked questions, and leaned in with curiosity, thank you. You're the heartbeat of Retiring on Purpose, and it's your energy that keeps this movement thriving. Now, looking ahead, next month, we're excited to welcome Belinda Van Tholen. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, spot on.
A senior travel advisor with a passion for helping people explore life with purpose and style. She'll be bringing fresh perspective and inspiration to help us keep living boldly. Until then, stay true to your path, keep living on your terms, and remember, the best is yet to come.
Love it.
Lovely.
Okay.
Beautiful.